From the Palacious North Studios of Way Happy, this is Mr. Meyer and product and quotient rules. All right, so here comes some more derivative rules. There is one called the product rule, which guess what? It means when two things are multiplied or there's a product involved, then you have to know how to do this. Now, sometimes you can do simple things like FOIL it out and then just do the power rule, but sometimes you can't. And so that's what this rule is all about. The product rule, plain and simple, says if you got to take the derivative of two things that are multiplied together, then this is what I need you to do. It is the first thing multiplied by the derivative of the second plus the second thing divided by the derivative of the first. Now, again, that is much easier to remember than the definition of derivative using the limiting process. So it's something you really want to know. And my advice to you is, how do I remember that? I just call this, you'll hear me constantly call this 1d2 plus 2d1. And what am I saying there? It's first thing times the derivative of the second plus the second thing times the derivative of the first. That is going to be your derivative of the product of those two things. Plain and simple. So here you can see a beautiful example using sines and cosines because they scare everybody. And so I wanted you to see it, but let's actually do one for ourselves. So as you can see right there, I have an example that says, find the derivative of this. Now you can see right there that that is definitely a product rule. Now again, I could FOIL this out and find the derivative, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and do the product rule. So we're going to have two pieces. Let's go ahead and call this one, f of x, and let's call this one g of x. So that means f prime of x would be, what is that? That's 3 minus 4x. And g prime of x is going to be, well, the 5 is nothing, and the 4x is just 4. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, so now let's go ahead and do the 1d2 plus the 2d1, or the product rule. So the first thing is, if my pen wants to write, is 3x minus 2x squared times the derivative of the second, which is 4, plus the second thing, 5 plus 4x times the derivative of the first thing, 3 minus 4x. And there is your derivative. Now I'm going to clean this up for you because it would make me crazy not to, but here it is. 12x minus 8x squared. And then I got to FOIL this bad boy out. 15 minus 20x plus 12x minus 16x squared. And then we combine like terms. And it looks like negative 24x squareds plus 4x minus 15. And that is, or plus 15, that is your derivative using the product rule. All right, let me ask you a question, and I'll be right back. Excellent work. You worked really hard on that one, and I appreciate it. Now, here we go. If there's a product rule, then guess what? There must also be a quotient rule. Oh, my goodness. How are we going to remember quotient rule? Well, here you go. Here is the quotient rule. If you have to find the derivative of a fraction, right, then what I need you to do is the first thing times the derivative of the second minus the second thing times the derivative of the first, all over the second thing squared. Now, of course, that is, again, a little hard to remember. Just like 1d2 plus 2d1 hopefully helps us remember the product rule, we also have one for the quotient rule. We call it low d high minus high d low all over low low, or low squared, depending on your mood. So you just got to remember that. Low d high minus high d low all over low squared. That's it. That's it, right? So low d high minus high d low all over the low one squared. And the easiest way to remember that, somebody said last year, they said they just think of it as a mountain. You would start low and go high, and then you'd be high and you would go low. So that's how they remember that it's low d high minus high d low all over low low. So let's try it. You got the top, which the first thing, which I will call f of x. You got the bottom, which I will call g of x. And so now let's see, f prime, or the derivative of f, would be 5. The derivative of g would be 2x. And now I can go ahead and I can find the derivative of this crazy fraction. So y prime is going to be low x squared plus 1 d high times 5 minus high 5x minus 2 d low 2x all over the low 1 squared, or what we would say is x squared plus 1 squared. And there is your derivative using the quotient rule. Now, of course, I can clean that up a little bit. So I would call this 5x squared plus 5 minus, what is that, 10x squared, and then minus 4x, so plus 4x, and all over x squared plus 1 squared. And I see some like terms up there in the top, so we'll call this negative 5x squared plus 4x plus 5 all over x squared plus 1 squared. And there she is. You can try to factor the top if you want. I don't know if it does. But there you would have it complete. You would have your derivative using the quotient rule. That's it. Have a great day. Stay happy, and I'll see you tomorrow.